This is a tutorial on how to select or cut out bitmap areas in RealDraw Pro. First, a bit of background. I've put a red rectangle behind the bitmap so that you can see where the bitmap is gone transparent, or where things are cut out. In other words, where you see red is where there is no longer any bitmap in front. Several times in the demo you'll hear me say that I've hit Control-Z. That's just the keyboard shortcut for undo. Okay, let's get rolling. Graphics programs call the process we're going through here is sometimes cutout, sometimes selection, sometimes mask, sometimes transparency. RealDraw Pro uses mask and transparency as the terminology. Now for some cutting out or selecting. When you have a background that's relatively even, that is not much texture to it, and where the color is pretty much uniform, you can very quickly do cutouts using the color transparency tool. You click on the bitmap, then you select the tool, and then you have a choice to select the tolerance, or how much variation in color or texture the tool will allow. Then you simply take the tool and click it on the bitmap. Instantaneously, everything that's in the color range you selected in the tolerance just goes poof, disappears. Color transparency doesn't work all that well when there's a variable background or where there's a lot of texture in the area that you need to remove. For those areas, you simply can use a hand-drawn polynome to use as the mask. In other words, you simply draw the area that you want to have removed, and then you apply that to the bitmap and it goes away. In this technique, you select a vector drawing tool. I'm using Add Curve here, and then you simply draw it around the area you want to have either preserved or removed. I'm doing this at breakneck speed here and not being very careful, but you can actually make extremely precise cutout outlines using the tool. It's a bit tedious, but it's entirely possible. When the polynome is done, you just close the shape. When your polynome doesn't have any transparency or texture in it, if it's just a plain fill, it doesn't matter which of two methods you use to use it as a mask. You can select either bitmap transparency from object or bitmap mask from object. Everything behind the mask is retained. Now, I never have really gotten straight when I use straight object or when I use the object inverted, so you'll have to experiment. If you get the wrong thing removed, you just go back, undo, and then just use the other form, whether it's use the object or use the object inverted. If your vector object has some transparency or texture to it, this is where you end up getting some value from the bitmap transparency from object. What happens is that whatever is not transparent, that is, whatever you see in the vector, becomes transparent in the actual output. And now we'll apply some of these techniques to a photograph to make the background more interesting. Here we have the sort of a typical Maine fishing village scene, taking a little bit of fog in the sky. The sky is uninteresting, the sea is kind of uninteresting, and I'm going to be replacing those. And I'm using cutouts or masks to make that happen. The easiest part to mask is the sky, where I can just use a one-click with the selection tool. However, trying to use the same process with the sea itself is kind of a problem. If you use a full tolerance, it picks up the boat and it picks up all kinds of background information as well that you don't want to have removed. If you hit Control-Z and go back and then reduce the tolerance, you find that there's a lot more artifacts in the sea, and you still have problems with the side of this boat. So we hit Control-Z again, make that all go away. And what I'll do is actually draw a vector shape around the area that I want to remove. I'll be making a mask out of a vector. So I just simply click around the outlines of the C area. It's kind of a tedious process, but it's not hard. And if you need it to be absolutely exact, you can actually zoom in after you're done and use the vector edit tools to make it just dead on. In this case, we don't really need to. There's a lot of stuff going on in this photograph, and people aren't going to be paying a lot of attention to the basic area here. Besides, we're going to do a little trick, which you'll see later, of kind of fogging over the area by using feathering. Anyway, the final bit of the drawing of this vector shape is fairly simple. You just simply go around the outside of the photograph back to the original point and make it a filled vector object, like so. You then select the bitmap, and holding the Shift key, you select the vector object, and you go to bitmap, mask, from object inverted.